If you watch Canadian television, you've no doubt heard of Degrassi. It's pretty much hard not to. It was the longest running and most successful show in Canadian history. Now there's a new documentary we've been telling you about looking into the popular show, and it's set to premiere this weekend at TIFF.
Have we always got it right? Probably not. Have we told our stories with the best of intentions? Yes, we have.
So the filmmakers of Degrassi, Whatever It Takes, speaks with cast, crew, and of course superfans about the show's beginnings in the 80s to finding a whole new audience decades later. The movie debuts Saturday night. And joining me now to discuss the show and its impact is self-proclaimed Degrassi superfan Jocelyn Claybourne, who is in our studios. Hey, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So you are actually one of my favorite parts in this documentary.
Thank you.
Tell me first how that happened, how you got in touch with the creators of this documentary. And
I don't think this story would even make sense to anybody because Linda Schuyler, the co-creator of Degrassi, threw my 30th birthday at her house.
Oh.
And she invited the people who were working on the documentary to come be in attendance. And that's how we got that connection together, which is maybe the craziest origin story of ever.
That's incredible. I love that we had this this view, though, from you. So I want to rewind here a little bit. What makes you a Degrassi superfan?
Oh, well, my love for the show started whenever I was in high school. Mm-hmm. I had started high school at the same time season 9 was airing, and they introduced a brand new character named Fiona. Mm-hmm. And I quite literally felt like I would go to school and have my own high school experiences, and then come home and watch Fiona play those out on TV. And the big catalyst behind Fiona's story is that she ends up coming out of the closet. And that moment changed my life. I came out that very night, which you'll see in the documentary. But the biggest thing was that I learned that it was intentional. Linda Schuyler had created the show. She was a school teacher. She wanted to help kids like me. And once I learned that this impact that I felt so emotionally was intended and helped so many kids all over the world like me, it made me want to become a champion of the show and learn even more. What other stories were they trying to tell? Who else did they impact?
I want folks to watch this for themselves because that story of your coming out, where you talked about having to come out to one of the hardest people, being yourself, is probably one of the most emotional parts of this documentary. So I'll let folks watch this for themselves. But we talk about the heavy topics that are shown on Degrassi, that are talked about. And it's interesting to see, for instance, abortion, how it was covered in the original series. And then with the new generation, why do you think these storylines were selected? Why do you think it touched so many viewers?
I think the number one thing that Degrassi does is it puts the person first. It takes these headlines that are so debated and so sensationalized and says, but what if they happen to you? What if they happen to your best friend? What if they happen to someone who's 14 years old? And I think when you get that honest with storytelling, you can only get to the true experience that someone has. What do you do if you're 14 and you need an abortion? And I think the fact that Degrassi got so real about it is why it's so timeless, and why the episodes in the 80s and the early 2000s and 2017 still stand up today.
We talk about what Degrassi did so well, which is tackling these difficult topics, but you also talked about what they didn't do so well in what certain storylines that they covered. Talk a little bit about the messaging in this documentary that you're hoping gets out to the fan base.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the history of Degrassi, I think it's the best TV show in the entire world, but it didn't always get it right, and it didn't always do things in a perfect way, but I still think it showed up and tried its best for kids like me. So I think the Degrassi documentary will open up those conversations of what were the things that it succeeded at, and what were those other things that fans walked away feeling like, oh, that just wasn't Degrassi's best.
It's such an honest conversation, and I love that. The storyline, the thoughts and opinions on this documentary are so consistent with what everyone is saying, and so you really get a sense that you were there when these events were happening. I want to talk to you about your podcast, though, because Degrassi is over, but your podcast is garnering so much attention. Tell me why you think folks want to hear more and more about Degrassi.
Well, I think we're all hungry for a reboot. I think it's been like about 8 or 9 years since Degrassi last made an episode, but this is a show that was part of so many generations' childhoods.
Yeah.
My mom watched the show. I watched the show. My older cousin watched the show. I think the fact that so many people have such solid memories with this show, or are finding it for the first time on streaming and resonated because the stories are so honest and true. I think that's why when people watch the show, they type in the word Degrassi and they find me, and they want to listen to my podcast and learn a little more.
You're part of the franchise here. So let me ask you, speaking about memories, what's your favorite memory getting to know the cast and crew over the years?
Oh, my all-time favorite memory was back in 2012. I got to be an extra on Degrassi for a day. Yes, there I am meeting some of the cast. And I specifically also got to meet Annie Clark, who played Fiona Coyne. That was the first time I ever met her. And I remember she had said to me, "This is so exciting. I even told my mom you were coming today." And that just felt so special to me. Oh, getting gifted this Degrassi Street sign by Linda Schuyler, that's also up there. But there's me and Annie there. That memory.
It's really obvious that there's a special connection you have there with all the cast and crew and those behind the scenes. And you are part of this documentary that is going to premiere this weekend. So I'm sure we're going to hear much more from you. You have so much content coming up on your podcast. Jocelyn, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.